tonight. This is Dayna Martin here. I'm an unschooling advocate, and my husband and I were the recent guests on the Dr. Phil show about homeschooling. The show was called The Great School Debate. I've had a lot of emails this week and inquiries about the behind the scenes of the Dr. Phil show. People have a lot of questions about what it was like for us to be part of that. So I want to answer some questions and share some of our behind the scenes info about it. I got a call from the Dr. Phil show after filling out a little form about who we were. I found a post on an unschooling list about the fact that Dr. Phil was looking for unschoolers specifically. So I went to his site, filled out a form, and before I knew it, a couple months later, the phone was ringing, and it was a producer, and they asked me a lot of questions. I was on the phone with them for probably 2 or 3 hours, and they talked to my husband as well, and they called us back and said that they were flying a film crew out to our house, and they'd be filming us for 12 hours, a day in our life. And then a couple days after that, they were flying us out to Hollywood. We let them know, they asked us if we could leave our kids home, and we said that we wouldn't do it, and if we had to leave them home, that we wanted them with us, and that's just the type of people we were. And so they called us back and let us know that yes, the kids could come. And then they wanted to know if they could leave somebody from the Dr. Phil crew with the kids while we were on stage. And so we let them know that no, we wouldn't do that. We weren't into a stranger watching the kids, and they also wouldn't be really comfortable with it. So I said we need somebody else to come with us then if we're going to be on the show, and the kids are going to be backstage. So they called us back and said yes, they were going to pay for another ticket. So we had our friend Joe's friend Chad, a really good friend of ours, came with us to go out to watch the kids backstage while we were on. Now Joe and I had no clue if we were even going to be on stage. We knew we'd be a big part of the show since they sent a film crew out, but we didn't know if we were going to be in the front row just talking for a minute or if we were going to be on a panel. We had no idea. They didn't let us know at all how the show would be set up. We knew it would be called The Great School Debate, and they let us know that we'd be representing radical unschooling, but that was basically it. It wasn't until they were doing my hair and makeup right before the show that I overheard somebody talking and saying that the unschoolers were going to be the main guests on stage with Dr. Phil, and I can't even tell you the way that felt. My heart was beating so fast just hearing that, and having no time to prepare, not having any clue, what was going to be asked of us, how the show was going to be set up, or anything. But I just took a deep breath and knew it was one big shot to do this, to introduce it to the world. So we just did it. I told Joe, and we waited backstage. We heard Dr. Phil be introduced, and there was somebody that came out on stage before Dr. Phil did to get the audience all pumped up and ready for when he came on. So they were all like singing music and stomping their feet, giving out his books, and it was quite a thing to just hear, from backstage. We could see the back of their heads, but that was it. And then we heard Dr. Phil come on and the music play, and it was just so surreal. I remember Joe just sitting next to me with his head down, and he wouldn't really talk to me. He was in his zone of preparing to go up there. And somebody came over to us and said that when you hear a video start, we're going to move you on stage with Dr. Phil. And so, we heard the video start. I could hear my voice. I had no clue how they even clipped it together from being at our house. One thing I want to say is when the producers were here, when the producer and the camera crew was here, there was 3 guys. They were really nice. We had such a fun day with them, and they told us halfway through the day that they thought when they got to our house that we were going to be in their words, totally crunchy, that we'd have no TV, no, just totally naturally minded, and they just were kind of a little nervous. They didn't know what to expect, and halfway through the day with us, they were having so much fun, and they said to us that this was so different than, our life was so different than what they thought it would be. They never heard of anything like unschooling, and by the end of the day, we were having so much fun together. They said they wanted to look into unschooling for their own kids. They all had kids, our kids' age. And so I've been in correspondence with, a lot of them, with most of them, since after the show. So it was just a great way to meet new people, new friends, and so forth. So anyway, so when we got up on stage with Dr. Phil, for one, they put me in these wicked high heels. I don't wear heels normally. It's just not me. And they put me on stage. I almost died walking up there. I was so nervous, and sitting on stage and just being so close to him, looking over and just seeing his face. He had so much makeup on. We had so much makeup on. It was just such a weird experience. Lights everywhere, camera crew, looking out over the audience, and they had just seen the video of us, and I'm thinking in my head how weird everybody must think we are. And so I had to take a couple deep breaths, and there was that one fleeting moment where I just was going to say, okay, nope, I can't do this, and I wanted to just run away because it was just intense not knowing what he was going to come at us with. So when you see the Dr. Phil show, you have to know that we had no clue what questions he was going to ask us, what perspective they were taking. We just totally winged it. And we, on top of that, the night before, they made a mistake with our flight, and instead of flying us out of Portland, Maine, they had us booked to fly out of Portland, Oregon. And oh my goodness, we were at the airport for so many hours with 3 kids. Keep in mind they were 2, 5, and 7, very young, and it was their first time flying, and they had to they had to fly us into New York, and then from New York to LA. It was really great. They did the best they could. I knew it was an honest mistake, but then they lost our luggage, and so I had shopped for the show, got the perfect outfit, the perfect jewelry, it was an exciting thing. So I wanted to look good. Spent a lot of time doing that. Had none of it. Had none of the girls' pretty dresses that they were going to wear that day. I mean, I had to go to the Dr. Phil set with my nasty T-shirt that I had on the flight with 3 kids before. There was Coke spilled on it. Oh, I had the same bra on from the day before. It was just so hard to So when you see us when you see us on stage, we only had 90 minutes sleep. We didn't get to the hotel room until, gosh, it was 3 or 4 in the morning. We didn't fall asleep until 5, and then we were woken up by the exercise room above us. We had not even 90 minutes sleep with 3 kids, and then we're kind of transported by limo to the show. So it was the most intense time of our entire lives. The hotel was beautiful. It was really cool traveling by limo and all that, and the whole experience was amazing. But I like to tell people the behind the scenes of us actually getting there was pretty wild. The second couple on the show, I forget the woman's name actually, the blonde woman that was really nervous about her kids being hurt in public schools. She makes the comment at one point on the show when Dr. Phil asked, "Are you unschoolers or homeschoolers?" And she said, "Oh, we're definitely not unschoolers. We have structure." And she kind of made it sound like we're not one of those wacky people, kind of referring to Joe and I. And she was the first person that came up to me after the show and asked me more about unschooling and said, "I want to know, where do I go to learn more about it?" Because it sounded really interesting. But I think because the way they portrayed it, as well as I think we did, they tried to portray it to be really kind of out there, and because it's not what most people do. And I think most people just think of homeschooling in one way. You think of homeschooling as really strict curriculum. A lot of people for doing it for religious reasons, and when they meet us, it's so outside the box of what homeschooling is about or what they've ever known for homeschooling to be. But once they hear us, I think people really love the idea. I know many people have asked me more about the idea of unschooling after they saw the show. So it's been a huge just turning point and such an incredibly empowering experience to be able to introduce people to this life. But anyway, and also, who else was it? Oh, the couple that was on the show that made the comment about, my kids being the ones that are going to vote for their health care someday. Do you remember them? Anyway, we saw them right after the show. The first thing they did after the show was both light up cigarettes, smoking butts, but they're asking us about health care. Whatever, to each his own, but it's just so hypocritical the way this world is, to me sometimes. And the Dr. Phil show was kind of, they have pretty strict policies of who you can't really associate with the other guests before the show, but I didn't know. So I'm out in the hallway after they did my hair, just chatting with people. I didn't know that, I was trying to chat with a guy actually that was against us in the audience with his wife there, and he seemed really nice. And it's amazing when you get on stage in that debate forum, it's so different. But we chatted with them after the show, actually, the day after, and they were really upset that they didn't get more time to talk. And everybody that was there, except for us, and Deanne, who was the other unschooler, was totally upset that the show wasn't kind of about them or about more mainstream homeschooling. But I think just everything happens for a reason, and we were meant to be up there like that and to introduce the world to this. And it was an amazing experience. It wasn't much of a debate. It was more of but I think they wanted it to be. I really think that the producers thought we'd get up on stage, Dr. Phil would tell us everything we were doing wrong and fix us and kind of put us in our place. And it totally didn't go that way. It took a totally different turn. But I think I was really happy that they aired it anyway, because it was probably the most unique show that Dr. Phil ever did, in the way that it all turned out. So I think he, by the end of it, I think he did have more of an open mind than I thought he would. Of course, he didn't do that with his own kids, so of course he's not going to be totally supportive of it. I mean, you don't go on a show like that and think that you're going to win Dr. Phil over. I mean, I knew that he would keep his stance, but I think he was pretty respectful toward the end. And yeah, I think it all went well. So there's just a little bit of the behind the scenes. I'd love to share more, but I think I'm almost out of time. We're only allowed 10 minutes on here per video, so I'm just going to check on the time, and I'll add more later. Take care. Thanks for listening.